As I said yesterday, it's a great pleasure to see you all here today in our first in-person plenary meeting since the 38th meeting in Rwanda back in November 2019. I'm very happy to be able to hold this session here in Strasbourg during the French presidency of the Council of the European Union. As you know, in-person plenary meeting since the 38th will also be the last in Rwanda back in November 2019. Parliamentary Assembly under the Cotonou Agreement. Very happy to be able to hold this session here in Strasbourg during
for your participation.
the French presidency of the Council of the European Union.
That this last session will be a great success.
In plenary meeting,
and I look forward to our future
38th
assemblies
will
under
also
the
be
new
the last in Rwanda
OACP-EU
back in
agreement.
November 2019.
Dear colleagues,
Parliamentary
this
Assembly
meeting
under the
is happening
Cotonou
when a devastating
Agreement.
war is
Very happy
ongoing
to be
in
able to hold
Ukraine,
this session here in
so I'm very
Strasbourg
grateful for your only about 1,000 kilometers from where we sit today. At the same time, we should not forget other recent or ongoing conflicts in the world and look forward to our future, including in the ACP countries. Dear colleagues, I would like to start with a minute of silence happening for the devastating war to remember the many civil victims of only about 1,000 kilometers from where we sit today. At the same time, we should not forget other recent or ongoing conflicts in the world and look forward to our future, including in the ACP countries. Dear colleagues, I would like to start with a minute of silence happening for the devastating war to remember the many civil victims of only about 1,000 kilometers from where we sit today. At the same time, we should not forget other recent or ongoing conflicts in the world and look forward to our future, including in the ACP countries. Dear colleagues, I would like to start with a minute of silence happening for the devastating war to remember the many civil victims of only about 1,000 kilometers from where we sit today. At the same time, we should not forget other recent or ongoing conflicts in the world and look forward to our future, including in the ACP countries. Dear colleagues, I would like to start with a minute of silence happening for the devastating war to remember the many civil victims of only about 1,000 kilometers from where we sit today. At the same time, we should not forget other recent or ongoing conflicts.
Muito obrigado. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
A lista dos membros.
The list of members of the Joint Parliamentary Assembly, as forwarded by the authorities of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific states and the European Parliament, will be annexed to the minutes of this session. I would like to remind you that pursuant to Rule 2 of the Rules of Procedure, members of the Assembly shall be, on the one hand, members of the European Parliament, and on the other hand, members of Parliament, or failing that, in exceptional circumstances, such as force majeure, and this should be notified in advance in writing to the Bureau of the Assembly representatives designated by the Parliament of each ACP state. We have received a request from the Speaker of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago so that His Excellency Mr. Colin Connolly, the Ambassador of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago to Belgium and to the European Union, to represent his Parliament. And we also received a note from the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for Mr. Louis Strucker to represent the Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We can then move on to the first point in our agenda. Dear colleagues, before we adopt the draft agenda, let me give you a brief summary of the session. Following yesterday's opening ceremony, our session this morning will begin with a statement by Yuta Opaline, European Commissioner for International Partnerships. Unfortunately, Ms. Opaline could not be here with us today in person, but will be speaking to us remotely. I have been told that her statement will include remarks on the post-Cotonou OACP-EU partnership agreement, as well as the Global Gateway, the new EU strategy to mobilize up to 300 billion euros in investments between 2021 and 2027 to underpin a lasting global recovery, taking into account our partners' needs and the EU's own interests. I've also been informed that the Commissioner will mention the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and its consequences beyond Ukraine's borders. After her introductory statement, the Commissioner will engage into a debate with our members before we close the first part of the session. Allow me also to make two technical comments. As members know, this plenary session is divided into blocks of 2-hour sittings followed by breaks. These so-called coffee breaks will allow members to speak informally with each other, and they're also necessary for interpretation reasons. So we need to strictly keep to these breaks. They can't be too long, but they also can't be too long. Secondly, I would like to ask members that when they speak in our debates, please stand up to do so. And it is important for the quality of the sound. And please make sure you turn on your microphone. Our last point in the agenda will be the first topic for an urgent debate: threats to stability, security, and democracy in Western Africa and the Sahel. As you're aware, this debate will not lead to an urgent resolution, which is regrettable, but we will still carry out this necessary debate, and very timely. The afternoon will begin with our customary debate with our councils. We are very pleased to have with us Ms. Sylvie Baipatemon, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Central African Republic, representing the rotating presidency of the ACP Council. However, and as I said in my speech in yesterday's opening ceremony, I deeply regret that the French presidency of the EU Council will not be able to send a representative to participate in this debate with Council. Minister Baipatemon, well, I was told that it's actually a female minister, but I guess there was a mistranslation in my text. So the minister will make an introductory statement before engaging in a debate with members. And the next agenda point after that is an urgent debate. After the council debate, so it'll be an urgent debate on Russia's invasion of Ukraine and its global impact. This agenda point was added by the Bureau on 21st March, and I believe it's important to discuss this topic, not only to discuss the Russian invasion, but also its many negative consequences that go beyond the borders of Ukraine. I am pleased to have a guest speaker Ms. Natalia Bugayova, a National Security Research Fellow at the Institute for the Study of War, an expert on Russia's foreign relations, including relations with Africa, and a former Chief Executive Officer of the Kiev Post. Finally, our Saturday afternoon will end with an exchange of views on our second urgent topic, enhancing the resilience of small island developing states against climate change and natural disasters. And then we'll have our keynote debate, overcoming the COVID-19 global pandemic, cooperation for economic recovery and investments to achieve universal health coverage, with an introduction by Ms. Jackie Cilliers, Chairperson of the Board and Head of African Future and Innovations at the Institute for Security Studies in Pretoria. On Sunday morning, we will start with a second keynote debate on building international solidarity to address the global education crisis in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, the speaker foreseen for this item had to decline, and we were not able to find another external speaker. However, I'm grateful to our colleague from the European Commission, Mr. Domenico Rosa, to have accepted at very short notice to make some introductory remarks. After a break, we then have a special agenda point to celebrate 20 years of our cooperation with the Cotonou Agreement. We felt it was important to mark this so that we can draw lessons from our long partnership. We'll also turn our views to the future, and I'm particularly pleased that we will do so through the perspectives of 3 young representatives in leadership roles, one from each of the 3 ACP regions. The afternoon sitting will begin with an internal point of the Joint Part JPA regarding the post-Cotonou Agreement prepared by the JPA Drafting Committee. We will then proceed to votes on our 2 compromise motions on urgent topics, and finally we'll have so after that we'll have a brief point on summary reports from Friday's workshops. Are there any comments on the agenda as I've just presented it? Please let me know now so I can give you the floor.
Palavra, por favor. Peço que fale.
Please stand up and turn your mic on when you take the floor.
Peço também, se não se importa, que se apresente para todos conhecermos.
And introduce yourself so that everyone knows who you are.
Chairman, my name is Azan Zungu. I'm the Deputy Speaker from Tanzania, and I'm very happy that you give me this opportunity to present my motion before the adoption of the agenda. Delegation of the United Republic of Tanzania proposed that we add in our agenda exchange of views on the EU list of non-cooperative tax jurisdictions and that of high-risk third countries with strategic deficiencies in their regime on anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. Please, Honourable Chair, I beg to submit.
Muito obrigado pela.
Thank you very much for that proposal. In any case, we don't have time on our program to add that. Certainly, however, our Assembly would like to debate that. Thank you for your suggestion. Would anyone else like to take the floor?
Good day, Chair. Coming to support the point of order, my friend from Tanzania, I'll request if we could have a special session on the topic, because it's affecting many of the SIDS countries and also many of the countries from the African region on the FATS.
Muito obrigado pela sugestão. Ao longo
Thank you for your proposal. Over the past 2.5 years, we have had various interparliamentary dialogues using the resources we have available, which includes remote participation. I think that we can hold an interparliamentary dialogue on that issue online.
mais quer usar a palavra, por favor?
Would anyone else like to take the floor? Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Co-Chair. My name is Natangwe from Namibia. The first point on the agenda, adoption of the agenda, it will serve no purpose to have that point if this sitting is not allowed to amend the agenda the way it fits the meeting. Then what's the reason why we have in front of us what we call a proposed agenda? It means it's a proposed agenda before we adopt it. If we adopt it, then it becomes an agenda. So why do we have the point if my colleague from Tanzania is not allowed to amend the agenda? Then you can just bring the agenda here and just start the meeting. We don't need to call it a draft agenda. But the reason why we call it a draft agenda, it means it's a draft agenda, and this meeting have the power to amend it as it fits. Thank you very much.
Pela sua observação.
Thank you for your comment. I would like to say that this agenda was set and approved by the Bureau of the JPA. Thus, this agenda was looked at and debated, and it can be updated. The colleague did not suggest withdrawing a point and adding a new one. He asked whether we could include a new point. If you want to withdraw a point and add a new point, we can do that based on a vote. But what I'm suggesting is a compromise. I would suggest that we have this debate in another setting, in an online format. Now we hear from Michel Gala.
Yes, very briefly. My suggestion is to colleagues to raise these issues, for instance, in the general debate that we have with the Commissioner. I mean, when there is a debate with the Commissioner and people have their slot to talk, they are free to raise an issue that they deem appropriate. And so then the Commissioner would also, I think, then respond to it. So if there are several colleagues on the same issue, this issue can really be discussed in depth. So my suggestion is use the slots that are foreseen, for instance, a debate with Yuta Opaline or a debate with the Council, so to raise these issues, and then they will be addressed.
Muito obrigado, colega.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Sim.
Yes, Chair. Just for your suggestion that you were proposing that we have it online, I would request if we could have the required people from the European Commission, the expert, who will be able to respond to our query on this. Maybe the Commissioner is not the one who is expert in the Financial Action Task Force, so anti-money laundering. This is my request. If you're going to have it online also, we need to have the right person so that we have the right result, because we want to move forward with this and have the best result for all the countries. So, Chair, I'll request this if ever you're going to propose it online, because if we have it online with anyone and we're not going to have the better response, it's of no use. Thank you, Chair.
Obrigado. E mais uma razão.
Thank you very much. That is, as I've explained, we should use the model I've suggested. We, on the EU side, don't have anyone from the Council in this meeting, and I've explained the circumstances, why we're in France, and we can certainly have this debate with the Council at the opportune moment, and we will try to have someone from the Council at that time. Go ahead, colleague.
Sim, Conselho e a Comissão, mas
Council and Commission. But I thought the question was about the Council being present.
Yes, this issue was raised at the ACP, and we did refer to Article 7 in terms of the agenda, where it says that in cases of urgency, the co-presidents may update the draft agenda between meetings of the Bureau to the written or silence procedure. We thought that having had a very exciting debate on this issue at ACP, that the two co-presidents would have consulted by now to see how to handle this particular matter. Has that been done?
tomo boa nota
I take note of your comments, and as I have stated, at the appropriate time, swiftly, we will organise a meeting with Council and Commission where we can express our views on this matter, a matter which has been raised in many previous ACP-EU meetings. The priorities for the debate were established, and the priorities for this agenda were set. If there are no further comments, then I declare the agenda approved. Given the calendar and the engagements of the Commissioner, I'd like to swap around the agenda points, change the running order. We will leave items 2 and 3 for later and move to item 4. We will now hear a declaration from Yuta Opaline, member of the Commission who is responsible for international partnerships. It's my pleasure to welcome the Commissioner, Yuta Opaline, to our meeting. As we always do, and as is always the case, the Commissioner will make an opening statement as she cannot be with us physically in Strasbourg. She's here digitally. And we know what items she's going to be talking about. I won't repeat them. Just to say it loud and clear, I really want to thank the Commissioner. I want to thank Yuta Opaline. Alas, she can't be here in person. But I want to thank her for her support, for her constant availability, for her very strong contribution. So she is focused not just on the parliamentary dimension of post-Cotonou continuing, and during Cotonou. So she's allowed that debate to happen, and she will allow that debate to continue post-Cotonou. And that means that the members' opinions have been taken on board. They were taken on board during the negotiation process, which led to the final outcome, the final conclusion, the final negotiations of the post-Cotonou agreement. So over the past few years, and I'm certain it will be the case in the future too, she has been, and she is, and she will certainly be an ally to our ACP JPA. I'll give you the floor, Commissioner. Over to you.
Thank you very much, honourable co-chairs, honourable members. It is my pleasure to open and address this 41st EU-ACP Joint Parliamentary Assembly. And I have to say that much has happened since we last met. Unfortunately, war is back in Europe, and the consequences are felt by all. Now we face worsening energy and food crises, and these are challenges for all of us, not only for Europeans, but for all of us. And in this heated geopolitical world, the EU-ACP partnership must remain a pillar of strength and a political driving force. I would have 3 messages today. First, now is the time to stand united in our values and uphold the rule-based order. Even before the aggression against Ukraine, instability around the world called for enhanced engagement, unity, and shared values. Unprecedented food crisis in many areas of the ACP regions. The political, security, and humanitarian crisis in Sahel, which I visited this week. The harsh reality of climate change, particularly for small islands, developing states. And of course, the uphill battle to end and recover from the COVID-19 crisis, notably by ensuring that vaccines reach people and make it into their arms. We face a difficult set of circumstances, but I know that together we can and we will prevail. And this brings me to my second point, the EU's new Global Gateway strategy. Through Global Gateway, we are offering partners major strategic investments in infrastructure development around the world. It is about better connecting people, societies, and economies through trust and sustainability. It is about strengthening the vital links between us in digital, in energy, transport, health, education, and research systems. The EU will be working with businesses and financial institutions to support and facilitate investments in innovative, sustainable projects with high developmental impact. We are already matching our words with concrete action. At the EU-AU summit last month, we tabled a number of strategic projects with huge transformative impact. We have a Team Europe initiative on manufacturing and access to vaccines, medicines, and health technologies. We are working on creating agricultural value chains focusing on jobs, sustainability, and food and nutrition security. Same goes for the Indo-Pacific Ministerial Forum, where we agreed a package of initiatives promoting sustainable, comprehensive, and rule-based connectivity. A new Team Europe initiative covering 18 Pacific countries and territories will strengthen climate ambition and promote sustainable management of natural capital. In the Caribbean, 800 million euros package will support the rollout of 3 partnerships on the green transition economic resilience and trade, and governance, security and human development. Innovative and demand-driven programs such as Euroclima Caribbean will help us deliver on these ambitions. Finally, to achieve all this, we need to have a new framework in place for our cooperation. It is essential. And I really hope we can adopt the post-Cotonou agreement very soon. Almost 1 year has passed since I initiated with the post-Cotonou agreement with Minister Doucet last April. The Commission did its part, sending our proposal for signature and provisional application to the European Council. Discussions are ongoing at the level of the ACP Council Working Party and with the French Council Presidency. We should not lose any momentum around the new agreement. The Commission stands as its firm supporter and is committed to its application as soon as possible. I invite you to urge the Council to unlock the situation. Honourable members, together our regions represent 1/5 of the world's population, 20%. Together we have a long-standing success story of partnership. And despite the increasingly multipolar and tense geopolitics, together we can move forward, strong, united, delivering for all our people. I thank you for your attention and I really look forward to our debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now we will launch our debate. Vamos ter séries de 4 perguntas e depois.
We will take questions 4 at a time, and then we will give the floor back to the Commissioner. We know that her time is limited. The questions are from the list that is for people who already requested the floor. We don't have much time for new speakers, so we have 4 questions and 4 answers at a time. So I'll start by giving the floor to the Honorable Shafodulu from Ethiopia for 3 minutes, please.
I think I have to stand up. Thank you, Honorable Co-Chairs. On the behalf of the delegation of Ethiopia, I would like to congratulate you for the manner in which you are guiding our deliberations. We are pleased to note that the post-Cotonou negotiations is concluded by initialing the document on 15th of April 2021, and we call on the EU to expedite its internal procedure to be able to sign the new agreement without further delay. We are hopeful that the new agreement will enable us to continue the exemplary and historic OACP-EU partnership with a genuine sense of cooperation and renewed spirit. We also welcome the organization of EU's new development financing tool, the Neighbourhood Development and International Cooperation Instrument, as the multi-annual indicative program for the 2021-2027 at the national and regional level are underway. We believe the programming activity should be carried out in consultation with relevant national and regional actors. We strongly believe the effectiveness of the OACP and EU partnership can only be ensured when national and regional competencies are owned and led by respective actors and where possible implemented using the existing national and regional institutional arrangements. I thank you.
Muito obrigado, colega.
Thank you very much, dear colleague. Now I'll give the floor to Michael Geller for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, dear Commissioner, dear colleagues. We have heard from the Commissioner the challenges that we are facing as we speak. We have had already, before the outbreak of the war in Ukraine from Russia, we have had the energy crisis and the food crisis. And this will be further harm, especially in the food area, if the harvest from Ukraine will not be able to be delivered to many of the countries. And as the Commissioner rightly said, in such situations, we should stand together to uphold the rules-based order. It cannot be that whatever country simply stages a war against a neighbor because they don't like the political path that they have embarked on. And that, if that gets the rule, there is no rules-based order anymore. And in the combination of food crisis and COVID challenges, there is already enough of a common agenda to address it. I'd like to recall that when COVID broke out and we were in a rapid research effort able to produce a vaccine, yes indeed, we started to supply our own citizens first. But if you look at the statistics worldwide, and I think globally now we have more than 4 billion people, far more than 4 billion people vaccinated, it is the European Union that has exported most vaccines globally, and also involving our partners in ACP. And I very much welcome the developments, especially in Africa for production sites. Rwanda is one, and if I'm not mistaken, there's also in Cape Town is one production ongoing. And insofar, my question would indeed be, what are we planning to extend this capacity for having, not only for this pandemia, but also for future pandemias, the possibility to have decentralized approach when it comes also to the production. At this point, I would very much clarify, there has been this other discussion of lifting the patents in this regard. I'm firmly against lifting patents because it doesn't produce any extra vaccines, but it, well, demotivates is one word to use it, but it works against the possibility of those researchers who are able to produce and have innovative vaccines that would prevent them from investing, because if their investments gets into zero, then they will not do it. But where the purpose is to deliver it as quickly as possible, and decentralized production sites in many parts of the world, I think should be the right answer to that. If your intellectual property is not preserved, you will not produce in this field. I think definitely that the global gateway is another chance for us to be better connected and to offer fair conditions for economic cooperation all over the world, especially also with our partners in ACP. I'm very happy to see that the first steps have been taken, and my question would in this regard be how much of the funds that are available, also not only from our budget, but also from the European Investment Bank and other financial instruments. I would like to know how that has already been activated, how much we have gained ground in this regard, and how many
Good morning, all. We will beginning our works. I will speak in my mother language. So, in Portuguese, I invite you to use your headphones. Ok. Vamos lá? Caros colegas, como
further harm, especially in the food area, if the harvest from Ukraine will not be able to be delivered to many of the countries. And as the Commissioner rightly said, in such situations we should stand together to uphold the rules-based order. It cannot be that whatever country simply stages a war against a neighbor because they don't like the political path that they have embarked on. And that, if that gets the rule, there is no rules-based order anymore. And in the combination of food crisis and COVID challenges, there is already enough of a common agenda to address it. I'd like to recall that when COVID broke out and we were in a rapid research effort able to produce a vaccine, yes, indeed, we started to supply our own citizens first. But if you look at the statistics worldwide, and I think globally now we have more than 4 billion people, far more than 4 billion people vaccinated, it is the European Union that has exported most vaccines globally, and also involving our partners in ACP. And I very much welcome the developments, especially in Africa for production sites. Rwanda is one, and if I'm not mistaken, there's also in Cape Town is one production ongoing. And insofar, my question would indeed be, what are we planning to extend this capacity for having, not only for this pandemia, but also for future pandemias, the possibility to have decentralized approach when it comes also to the production. At this point, I would very much clarify, there has been this other discussion of lifting the patents in this regard. I'm firmly against lifting patents because it doesn't produce any extra vaccines, but it, well, demotivates is one word to use it, but it works against the possibility of those researchers who are able to produce and have innovative vaccines that would prevent them from investing, because if their investments gets into zero, then they will not do it. But what the purpose is to deliver it as quickly as possible, and decentralized production sites in many parts of the world, I think, should be the right answer to that. If your intellectual property is not preserved, you will not produce in this field. I think definitely that the global gateway is another chance for us to be better connected and to offer fair conditions for economic cooperation all over the world, especially also with our partners in ACP. I'm very happy to see that the first steps have been taken, and my question would in this regard be how much of the funds that are available, also not only from our budget, but also from the European Investment Bank and other financial instruments. I would like to know how that has already been activated, how much we have gained ground in this regard, and how many more investments we can expect in ACP countries in order to boost investment and jobs. And of course also that must be accompanied by better cooperation in the field of education particularly, because I think in cooperating with ACP countries in this field, it requires at least a two-step approach. On the one hand, to cooperate, especially, as I said, in basic education, but also a vocational training, so that if there is any investment initiated inside ACP or in cooperation with our entrepreneurs, that then when they come, that they also have the workforce that they need in order to create the jobs and to create added value. I would very much wish that if you take certain regions and look at the productions that they have, by now, if I take West Africa as an example, if there is coffee, cocoa and cotton, all the added value by now is created elsewhere. The cotton added value mostly in Asia, and cocoa and chocolate in our countries. I would wish that there is production and added value created there. As I said, it requires this approach. There need be the educated workforce, and there need be the investors who are prepared to invest there, and that is, I think, a way forward. And I would really wish that in real terms on the ground in many ACP countries we would see these jobs and opportunities created. That is the way, the better way to cooperate and bring hope to the citizens in many parts of the world, and I'm happy, and I think we are prepared to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleague. And now I give the floor to Honorable Pierre Obanji from Gabon, from 3 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Co-président, de me passer la parole. Madame la commissaire au développement, je voudrais intervenir sur l'évaluation des projets et le contrôle parlementaire. Madame la commissaire, après la COP 21 de décembre 2015 à Paris, nous attendons toujours la mise en place et la mise en œuvre des mécanismes pour le suivi de cet accord. Chaque pays peut-il disposer de son outil propre ou bien le dispositif est-il global? À quand sa réelle mise en œuvre? Sur le débat autour des changements climatiques, le Gabon peut louer les efforts louer les efforts et même les sacrifices qu'il consent avec d'autres pays ACP en matière de préservation et de protection de la nature. Toutefois, permettez-nous d'insister sur le contraste entre les ambitions affichées par chaque COP, notamment celle de Glasgow tout récemment au Royaume-Uni, et la réalité sur le terrain. À Glasgow, en effet, l'APP a fait entendre sa voix à travers la résolution 112-21 du Conseil des ministres ACP. Les pays ACP exigent des pays engagés surtout les Européens, qu'ils respectent l'accord de Paris, dont le niveau d'application est encore très insuffisant malgré les bonnes intentions. Je vous remercie.
Merci collègue pour votre question et maintenant je donne la parole au collègue Hans Hyde pour 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Madam Commissioner. We are at the turning point of our world order. The consequences of the war in the Ukraine will be that we have to decide if we will have a multilateral world with values or if we want to have an imperial world order like Russia wants it. And the global south is the playing field for this new world order. So I welcome the initiative by the European Union of the Global Gateway, because this offers trust building and fair cooperation with the ACP countries, with our partners. So my questions go about budgets, about possibilities, because we need to put fresh money into this development. We have to put new possibilities for our partners. So I want to ask also about the opportunities and possibilities for our ACP partner countries, which they will have during the Global Gateway Initiative. How can they benefit? What perspectives do they have? And I also want to ask the European Union about strategies about the probable food crisis we will be confronted during this year as another consequence of this war. Are there already preparations made how we can counter them? So I welcome the initiative of the Global Gateway. I'm looking forward for this cooperation, and I want to close with the remark that the ACP and the European Union benefit from each other, and so I also call for unity and for cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, colleague. Now I give the floor to the Commissioner. I know that 4 minutes is not easy to so many questions, but I ask for the best. 4 minutes for you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks for your interventions and questions. I try to be brief. Parliamentarian Shafadulo raised the new post-Cotonou agreement, and I fully agree with you, sir, that definitely we need to be able to sign the new agreement as soon as possible. And as I said, Commission is of course ready, and now we need to put also pressure towards the European Council so that they would allow us to be able to sign the agreement. Relating to NDC Global Europe, yes, over 90 multi-annual integrated programs are already adopted. If I remember correctly, 95 under my responsibility. So now in those countries, we are entering in the implementation phase. With some of the countries, we're still negotiating, so we have not been able to adopt MIP. I think your country, Ethiopia, is one of them, and of course we hope that in the near future we would be able to be at that stage that we could also adopt a MIP for Ethiopia. Parliamentarian Gahler raised many important points relating to vaccine production. Yes, this has been our strategy since the beginning of the crisis. So first we try to provide financial support to our partners globally, 46 billion euros together with the member states and IFIs. Then we started to share vaccines. Our member states have shared over 400 million doses until now. And there is a commitment to share 700 million doses by the end of June. And in addition to that, we also wanted to strengthen, in particular, resilience in Africa, because Africa imports 99% of the vaccines it uses and 94% of the medicines it uses. And that's why we created this vaccine manufacturing initiative. We are working very closely with 4 countries, South Africa, Rwanda, Senegal, and Ghana. I visited myself on Thursday, Ghana, and their plan is to start COVID vaccines production in the beginning of 2024. So that's their plan. I think in Rwanda, Senegal, we can start a production already this year. And European Union, together with our member states and IFIs, are supporting that initiative with 1 billion euros. Then there was a point made by Parliamentarian Opaline relating to climate. And yes, sir, I definitely agree with you that we also have to be able to commit to those political objectives we have together adopted. And I think relating to climate, from the European Union part, we are definitely, we have not only talk, but we have also walked the talk, because we have committed to share 35% of our external financing to climate-related projects. So this is high priority for us, and we are now working with our member states to define the concrete projects where we can definitely help them to tackle the climate crisis. And my last point is Parliamentarian Heide relating to financing. So we have an NDC Global Europe new financial instrument of 80 billion euros. So this is what we can use from our EU budget. But we also created this new concept of Team Europe, which means that we work very closely with our member states and our IFIs in order to be able to pool resources and also work more in an efficient way. So that means that through the Global Gateway, for instance, we try to boost up to 300 billion euros investments globally, and we are working with our member states, but also with the private sector in order to really succeed on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. To try to manage as with the most efficacy possible the time you have. You have 10 colleagues that ask the floor. We will make 2 groups of 5, and the end of the first group of 5, we will give you 5 minutes, and the second group 5 minutes. So we will begin with the first group of 5 colleagues, and I give the floor to colleague Honorable Alifa Salah from Gambia for 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable. We have talked about a global order based on values. Clearly, European Union is not relating to the Middle East based on values, not with China based on values. So the world is based on interests. It is the OACP-EU that had tried, through an agreement, to build a world based on values. Unfortunately, when I look at the OACP and its new objectives and what it was under the Georgetown Agreement, I see a drift taking place which the European Union should be cautious of. we should not see ourselves as a superpower. The difference of Europe of today and yesterday is the Europe of yesterday was looking for collaboration.
Sorry, colleague, sorry, 1 minute. You can put out the mask because to translation is very difficult, to interpretation. Sorry. Usually, no, without the mask, without the mask.
But I'll be very loud, yeah, because for security purposes of my health, yeah. So the Europe of yesterday and the Europe of today seems to be moving in a different direction. The Europe of yesterday sought collaboration with the ACP so that we can pave a new path for the world. And we were succeeding, and we can still succeed. The issue of Ukraine, we are talking about a world order where we must respect the sovereignty of nations and the sovereignty of people. And Parliament must defend that. To defend it where any violation occurs, we should be looking for solutions, collaboration to solve a problem, not collaboration to divide the world into those who support and those who support another side. We will not go back to a world divided into sides. We'll go towards a world where we will unify and create a society in each country that will defend the sovereignty of nations and the sovereignty of people. So don't lecture us on the direction of the world. We know where we are heading. The path that we should head to has been abandoned. We've seen Trump in the United States. Now we see what is happening all over the world. You are talking about a world order to go back to the old Soviet era, where nations are divided and there are global superpowers. We refuse that. That will not happen. We are going to chart a path where we'll guide you. You are all lost. You no longer believe in values. I am telling you, ACP, let's believe in values. The democracy they were teaching us, that is the root. We must defend the sovereignty of nations. We must defend the sovereignty of people. Where they violate it, let us guide them how to solve the problem so that we can continue to save the world. We will not disappear from the face of the earth.
Thank you, colleague. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Honorable Traoré from Guinea for 3 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le co-président, les co-présidents, le co-secrétariat, permettez-moi de transmettre à votre Excellence et à l'ensemble des délégations ici les salutations de la République de Guinée. J'ai suivi avec intérêt la communication de Madame Yuta, et dans sa communication sur le nouvel accord, elle est revenue sur la nécessité de l'unité. Ensuite, elle a beaucoup insisté sur le renforcement de nos liens. Donc, inutile de revenir sur la position géostratégique de notre organisation en termes d'importance dans le monde. Mais il est extrêmement important dans ce qu'elle a évoqué, le renforcement de nos liens, surtout sur la question sanitaire, que véritablement cela se traduit par des actes. C'est pourquoi je salue effectivement la question de la levée des brevets sur la production du vaccin, parce que ces 2 années passées par rapport à la crise de la Covid nous a permis de découvrir la fragilité de l'humanité et aussi les difficultés logistiques par rapport non seulement au transport du vaccin des pays de l'Europe jusqu'en Afrique. Donc il est extrêmement important aujourd'hui que cette question de levée de brevets soit une question centrale dans nos discussions et surtout que cela se traduit par le transfert de technologie, pas véritablement l'importation de la technologie, mais il faut créer véritablement une vraie résilience en matière de technologie en Afrique et qu'il y ait en Afrique également la capacité de résister parce qu'on ne sait pas quelle autre menace guette le monde. Donc avant que ces questions de logistique ne soient réglées de l'Europe vers l'Afrique, il est important que l'Afrique, le Pacifique et le Caraïbe soient vraiment dotés de capacités de résilience en matière de technologie. Je vous remercie.
Merci collègue et je donne maintenant la parole à la collègue Michel Rivasi pour 2 minutes 30 secondes.
Merci Monsieur le Président et merci Madame la Commissaire d'être présente parmi nous. Et je remercie, je suis très contente aujourd'hui de vous voir tous parce que c'est la première fois qu'on se voit tous en chair et en os et pas en virtuel. 2 questions. Première question sur la cohérence par rapport au plan sur l'énergie, sur le Green Deal et par rapport à ce qui se passe en Afrique. Moi, je suis un peu surprise, il y a 2 projets portés par Total, qui est une entreprise française, internationale, notamment en Ouganda, au Mozambique. Et en Ouganda, par exemple, Total veut faire 400 forages, dont plus d'un tiers, c'est dans un parc naturel, avec un oléoduc de 1400 km qui va traverser la Tanzanie pour aller au port. Et ça, c'est complètement incohérent si on veut diminuer le réchauffement climatique. Au Mozambique, c'est sur le gaz. L'Agence internationale de l'énergie dit qu'il ne faut plus extraire des énergies fossiles. Alors comment l'Europe peut arrêter ces projets climaticides? Parce que là, ça va complètement à l'inverse de ce qu'on veut faire sur la diminution du réchauffement climatique. Que peut faire l'Europe? Que peut faire la Commission? Deuxième sujet, alors il y a à la fois mon copain, M. Galère, et un représentant de la Guinée. Madame la Commissaire, il faut qu'on soit clair. La crise du Covid nous a appris quoi? Que nous, les pays riches, on a trouvé, grâce au labo, des vaccins, mais que l'Afrique, ils ont attendu des années, plus de 2 ans, pour avoir accès aux vaccins grâce à une espèce d'outil COVAX où les Africains ne sont pas satisfaits. Et nous non plus, les parlementaires. Qu'est-ce qu'on veut? Et on s'est bagarré ici avec plusieurs parlementaires pour que la Commission soit favorable à la levée des brevets. Parce que vous nous parlez du Rwanda, du Sénégal. Mais c'est quoi? C'est BioNTech, donc un labo, qui va transférer au Rwanda et au Sénégal leur technologie, mais c'est eux-mêmes qui sont propriétaires de la technologie. C'est pas l'autonomie et l'indépendance de l'Afrique, ça. C'est ce qu'on appelle des licences volontaires. Nous, on ne veut pas ça, Madame la Commissaire. Ce qu'on veut, et je voudrais avoir votre avis maintenant définitif, on veut que la Commission soit pour la dérogation des brevets et qu'elle vote à l'OMC la dérogation des brevets, ce qui fait que l'Afrique du Sud et l'Inde pourront fabriquer leurs propres vaccins, pourront fabriquer les tests, pourront fabriquer les médicaments.
Merci Michel, je crois que la question c'est clair maintenant et vous avez utilisé tout le temps.
Que fait la Commission par rapport à ça? Et tous les pays ACP sont favorables à ça. Et c'est pas BioNTech seulement qui va donner ces petits labos et c'est eux-mêmes qui seront propriétaires des vaccins.
Je donne maintenant la parole à l'honorable João Bernardo Vieira from Guiné-Bissau. Ok, 3 minutes.
Obrigado, Sr. Presidente.
Se for possível, sem a máscara, pode ser para a interpretação. Obrigado.
Obrigado, Sr. Presidente. de facto, nós tínhamos solicitado a palavra para o debate relativamente às ameaças em África, mas relativamente à questão que está a ser discutida, a nossa preocupação é partilhada por todos os países africanos. É a questão da transferência da tecnologia no que toca à questão do Covid. Nesse sentido, é a preocupação de todos os países e gostaríamos de ter uma colaboração muito mais profícua com a União Europeia no que toca à questão da transferência de competências. Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente.
Muito obrigado, colega Bernardo Vieira. E aproveitando o facto de estar a falar na minha língua materna, em português, é também em português que dou a palavra agora ao Honorável Songe, do Malawi, por 3 minutos.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for according Malawi the opportunity to contribute to the debate following the presentation made by the Madam Commissioner. I will raise 2 questions regarding the Ndichi versus EDF and regarding the budgetary support to the Republic of Malawi. As a fresh parliamentarian, I am meant to understand that Ndichi is a new development instrument that is about to replace EDF cycle. I have further learned that Ndichi is using a new approach that has not been used before, and as such, the ACP states are hugely concerned. They fear that Ndichi is going to bring a lot of uncertainties among the recipient countries. Some of the concerns arise from the fact that funds will be accessed on a competitive basis as opposed to the EDF cycle where budgets were ring-fenced for countries. In view of the difficult EU procedures, ACP countries feel they will not be able to use the resources earmarked to them. The frequent changes to the EU templates make it difficult to users to keep pace with the changes and updates, hence missing out on resource absorption. The question is, what assurance does the Commissioner give to the ACP countries about this matter? Secondly, Mr. President, you will notice that the EU budget support operation in Malawi was suspended back in 2012, and the negotiations continued back in 2017. In 2020, we had installed a new administration led by His Excellency Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera, who has been so passionate about getting the budgetary support from the EU back on track. And to demonstrate his commitment, he has been able to ensure that he is fighting and ending corruption by appointing the new Attorney General, the new head of public prosecutions, and the new head of Anti-Corruption Bureau. This trio has worked so much in recovering assets from which were obtained from illegal means. The President has ensured that the IMF program is brought back on track by mid-year of this current year. And the President has continued to observe good governance and rule of law and respect for human rights. Furthermore, the President has expedited the internal controls with a special emphasis of payroll and pension management to eliminate ghost workers.
Thank you, colleague.
And finally, the President has committed to ensuring linkages of human resource systems and the payment systems. Now the question is, when can the EU consider resuming the budgetary support to Malawi? Malawi is currently dealing with huge challenges posed by COVID.
Okay, the point
Thank you.
Your point is clear, and now I give the floor to the Commissioner for 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your interventions and questions, and I start with Parliamentarian Salah. Sir, I fully agree with you that we need to respect the sovereignty of people and nations. That's clear. And that's what we are exactly doing, defending Ukraine. So it means that we need to also defend our values. We need to defend democracy. We need to defend the international law. We need to defend the rule of law, and we need to defend human rights. We, the European Union, we don't want to divide the world, but we need to defend the values. And of course, we hope that here we can count on the support of the ACP countries as well, because we share the values. And that's why we need to be also very clear together on this. Then there were parliamentarians, Treor, who raised the role of the vaccine pattern waiver, so TRIPS waiver. And we are all aware that there were negotiations ongoing between South Africa, India, the US and the European Union. And we were able to reach a compromise agreement. And now this question is on the table of the WTO. And from our perspective, our member states are supporting that compromise proposal, as well as the Commission. So, of course, from our perspective, we hope that the new compromise proposal could be adopted as soon as possible. Then there was a question on technology transfer, and actually Parliamentarian Bernardo Veira also raised that. I fully agree with you. I think this technology question is very important in terms of strengthening the resilience of Africa, but also in terms of future of Africa. And that's why we, the European Union, together with some of our member states like Germany, France and Belgium, we are supporting, for instance, technology transfer hub in South Africa, because we see a lot of value on this. And then there was a question, two questions raised by Parliamentarian Rivasi. First, relating to consistency. And I think this is an important point, because we have very much tried to accelerate energy transition in Europe. And now what we try to do also is that we try to support the same energy transition, green transition, globally through the Global Gateway. And that's why we are investing a lot in connectivity, hard connectivity, including energy production. The EU budget is not supporting fossil fuel extraction investments in any country, and therefore we have also no means to directly influence the way the operations are managed. What is important for us is also that we respect of the human rights, and the highest environmental standards is on the top of our agenda, and also mainstreamed in our cooperation all over. So these human rights aspects, but also environmental aspects, are very high priority for us. And my last point relates to vaccines. Dear colleagues, at the moment we know that there is no lack of supply in the world, but there is a lack of demand. And that's the case also in Africa. 13%, that's the vaccination rate with 2 doses at the moment in Africa. We are ready to share more doses with African partners, but at the moment the challenge is absorption capacity. And that's why we also need to strengthen the health systems in Africa. And we just announced a new package, 120 million euros for Africans, so that we can really strengthen the basic infrastructure and a capacity of health systems, so that they can really vaccinate the people. Because that's not enough to receive vaccine doses if they are not able to start to vaccinate people. And the last point relates to Parliamentarian Songve. Yes, so We negotiate multi-annual indicative program with all our partner countries. So we adopt a MIP where we define a concrete policy priorities where we want to focus on in our cooperation. Then we have different kind of financial modalities to be used. One is budget support, and relating to that, we have clear conditions, which we are also monitoring through the process. And if those conditions are not met, unfortunately, then we need to suspend our budget support payments. Why we need to do so is that we, the European Union, we are operating with our taxpayers' money. So we have to also maintain the legitimacy of our citizens to the bilateral cooperation between us and our partner countries. So for us, it's very important that we have clear conditions for our partnerships, and we can also monitor that those conditions are met. So we, together with our partner countries, we set political objectives, and we want to work hand by hand in order to achieve those political objectives. But in terms of budget support, we need to have clear conditions, and I'm looking forward to working closely with Malawi also in order to be able to continue the budget support in future.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now you have the last package of 5 questions and the final answer from you. And so I give the floor to Honorable Duno from Mauritius for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Merci, Madame la Présidente, aussi, le Commissaire. As I'm taking the floor for the first time, allow me to convey to you and all the honourable members of Parliament the greetings of the Honourable Suraj Dev Fokir, the Speaker of the National Assembly, and to congratulate you in the manner that you are conducting the deliberation of this August Assembly. And, Chair, I am glad that the engagement of Mauritius with the EU is based on friendship and has evolved with the framework of OACP-EU, Cotonou Partnership Agreement. And this partnership has been instrumental in supporting the economic development of Mauritius on a gamut of issues relating to commerce, fisheries, and regional cooperation. We have done wide consultation in Mauritius at national level during the process of negotiation of the new post-Cotonou agreement. And we appreciate the EU side has paid attention to the needs and concerns of ACP Group during the negotiation, culminating to its initialing on the 15th April 2021. We joined the organization of OACPS and look forward for the signature of the new agreement in Samoa before the end of June 2022. But the new OACP agreement and its attendant regional protocol will make a new phase in the relationship between the new 2 blocs. Mauritius look forward for its signature and its early effective implementation, and hope that the special and be given to different specialities of countries and region of the grouping. We trust that the operationalization of the regional protocol be clearly established with the assistance and support of the EU in consultation with the sub-Saharan countries, African Union, as well as sub-regional organizations with a view of setting up a mechanism and structure and would oversee the implementation of regional protocol. And one more thing is that you were talking about the vaccine, and we in Mauritius also, we want to have the collaboration between everyone. Last year in our budget, we put a budget for the manufacturing of vaccine. We are giving land, but we don't have the know-how, and we don't know how we could collaborate between with the EU to see how we can develop the vaccine also in Mauritius, and that we can distribute it in the, because we are strategically positioned, and we can help to distribute the vaccine in Africa and other countries also. I thank you, Madam, for all your intervention, and it's very important for us small island development states on the issues that we are going to face with the climate change, because we have experience here in Strasbourg. On Monday we had the sun, and today we have snow on Friday. And in my country right now, there is flooding issues going with, and it's becoming a big problem. So I thank you for taking care of this. Thank you.
Thank you, colleague. Thank you, colleague. And now I give the floor to MEP Mark Butenga for 1 minute.
Merci, Monsieur le Co-président. Merci, Madame la Commissaire. Alors, vous parlez, les dirigeants européens en général, d'un partenariat avec l'Afrique. Mais il faut faire attention, parce que le mot partenariat est un mot qui a un sens, qui a une signification. Un partenariat, ça veut dire travailler ensemble à des objectifs communs dans le respect de l'autre. Ça veut dire que partenariat est évidemment incompatible avec toute approche impériale, néocoloniale, etc. Alors partenariat, c'est effectivement partager les meilleures technologies de santé, effectivement, et utiliser les brevets pour refuser de partager cette technologie avec les pays africains. Ça, c'est une approche néocoloniale. Partenariat, c'est respecter tous les réfugiés qui viennent de l'Ukraine, et tous les réfugiés en général, peu importe la couleur de leur peau, et enfermer des réfugiés africains, ça c'est une approche néocoloniale. Partenariat, c'est aussi accepter que les Africains développent leurs propres alliances, leurs propres voies, sans que l'Europe vienne faire la leçon, parce que ça aussi, ça serait une approche néocoloniale. Alors décortiquons une à une ces politiques européennes et voyons si nous sommes dans l'impérialisme, le colonialisme ou la coopération et le partenariat. Je vous remercie.
Merci, collègue. Je donne maintenant la parole I give the floor to His Excellency Colin Connolly. This is Ambassador of Trinidad and Tobago and represents the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago for 2 minutes and a half.
Thank you very much, Mr. Co-President, honorable members of Parliament, and thank you very much to the Commissioner for giving a statement this morning. It's always a pleasure to meet with you again, Commissioner. We well remember the times that you engaged with us during the negotiations, and we well remember the initial in with Chief Minister Duce, April last year. Commissioner, you mentioned in your opening remarks the importance of partnership with the OACPS, and we couldn't agree with you more. And we couldn't agree with you more also when you noted the long-standing relationship between the OACPS and the EU, Cotonou, and now post-Cotonou. So we want to acknowledge that intangible relationship between the two parties. At this point in time, I'd like to say we look forward to your potential visit to the Caribbean in the not-too-distant future. The main reason I'm taking the floor, Mr. Co-President, and the reason why a point of order was raised this morning on AML and CFT issues and tax issues, it is because it is directly related to some of the policies that have been instituted by the EU. And that is why it was so critical that it was raised, and we had hoped to have it as an agenda item. Commissioner, I don't know if you're aware that we believe as a consequence of some of the directives and regulations instituted on tax and AML CFT issues have resulted in a major issue, a sleeping, crying issue, in that some embassies and missions of OACPS member states and non-OACPS member states have had their banking relationships terminated in Belgium. No embassy could exist and function without access to banking and financial relationships. No reasons were given for this. Sometimes 30 years of uninterrupted service have seen these relationships ended. This is absolutely unimaginable. And so when you look at access and you try to research the matter, you see in the footnotes of some of the documentation where it said they quote various EU directives and regulations on AML CFT issues. So my question to you, Honourable Commissioner, is one. I know this is not your area, your remit, but could I ask you to prevail on your colleagues in TAXUD and FISMA to raise this matter, investigate this matter, and try to bring some resolution to it? And secondly, could I ask you, and with your members of Parliament here, could I ask you to liaise with them to cause an inquiry to be done to ascertain the consequences of this on OACPS member states and the consequences of this on the reputational damage that has been done to them.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Your point is made, and now I give the floor to MEP Maria Arena for 2 minutes.
Merci, chère Madame la Commissaire, chère Yuta, merci beaucoup pour le message que vous avez donné et merci pour le travail que vous avez fait sur Global Gateway, pour lequel nous partageons bien entendu l'investissement de l'Union européenne dans les pays partenaires. Je partage aussi le message que vous avez fait sur les priorités dans un contexte international extrêmement complexe aujourd'hui. Ce message sur l'unité des valeurs. Mais Madame la Commissaire, ceci impose à l'Union européenne de ne pas avoir de double standard. Et on a parlé tout à l'heure de la question migratoire. Quand il s'agit des migrants qui viennent du Sud, la réponse européenne est de construire les frontières et de rejeter les migrants, alors que quand il s'agit de migrants blancs, blonds aux yeux bleus, la réponse de l'Union européenne est d'ouvrir ses frontières. Alors je suis pour ouvrir les frontières pour toute personne qui aujourd'hui est menacée dans son pays. Et donc là, un dicton africain dit, si vous devez demander à un ami de vous frotter le dos, prenez soin de vous laver le visage. L'Union européenne a besoin parfois de se laver le visage. La deuxième question concerne la question de la sécurité ou de la souveraineté alimentaire. Vous avez utilisé le terme sécurité alimentaire. Celui-là est basé sur un concept qui est un concept basé sur la production massive soutenue par l'agribusiness. Est-ce que vous allez continuer à développer ce modèle avec des partenaires qui sont les partenaires de l'ACP, alors même qu'aujourd'hui se pose la question de la dépendance que nous avons et l'interdépendance que nous avons avec des pays tels que l'Ukraine et qui aujourd'hui risquent de nous mettre dans des graves difficultés en matière de famine. Dernier point, vous avez dit la promotion des énergies durables et renouvelables. Madame la Commissaire, 2 de vos collègues ont présenté une proposition de la Commission en ce qui concerne la due diligence, c'est-à-dire la responsabilité des entreprises. Eh bien, cette proposition, elle ne permet de rendre responsable que 1% des entreprises européennes en matière de due diligence, c'est-à-dire de respect de l'environnement et des droits sociaux. Ce n'est pas satisfaisant. Si nous voulons changer effectivement cette responsabilité, faire en sorte que des entreprises telles que Total, mais pas uniquement, respectent l'environnement là où elles travaillent, eh bien il va falloir être beaucoup plus exigeant sur cette responsabilité.
Merci. Merci. Merci, collègue. E passo então à minha língua materna para poder dar a palavra ao último orador, o meu colega, membro do Parlamento Europeu, Pedro Silva Pereira, por 1 minuto.
Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente. Sra. Comissária, obrigado pela sua intervenção, pela atenção que tem dado à cooperação com esta Assembleia e também pelos esforços da Comissão para reforçar a parceria com os países de África, Caraíbas e Pacífico. Não temos falado muito sobre o papel dos acordos comerciais nesta parceria, mas é importante que os acordos comerciais sejam assumidos não apenas como uma alavanca para o crescimento económico, mas também para o desenvolvimento sustentável. E eu perguntava, Sra. Comissária, se não acha que estes acordos de parceria económica, estes acordos comerciais, podem ser um instrumento mais eficaz do que têm sido até hoje para a promoção do desenvolvimento sustentável. A segunda pergunta, como relator do Parlamento Europeu para o Acordo de Parceria Económica entre a União Europeia e a África Ocidental, queria lhe perguntar se a Comissão Europeia já desistiu deste acordo ou se, pelo contrário, tem uma estratégia para superar o impasse. Este acordo foi assinado por 15 dos 16 países da África Ocidental, apenas tem as reservas da Nigéria, é apoiada pelas instituições regionais de África Ocidental e eu queria saber como é que a Comissão espera resolver esse impasse e se no quadro do reforço da cooperação com a Nigéria, de que precisamos, se há lugar para procurar trazer a Nigéria para esta parceria também económica e comercial. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado, colega. Eu dou agora a palavra à Sra. Comissária para responder. Eu sei que as limitações de tempo são sobretudo suas e, portanto, tem 5 minutos ou o tempo que desejar, se precisar de mais algum. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much. I try to be brief. Parliamentarian Dungo raised the urgency relating to climate change, and sir, we definitely share your concern, and that's why 35% of our external financing are somehow related to climate change. So this is the highest priority for us, and also in terms of Mauritius, we are of course defining the concrete projects, how we are able to help you in order to tackle the climate change. Then there was Parliamentarian Potenge who raised the need for mutual partnerships, and I agree with you. Actually, we changed the name of my title because nowadays I'm the Commissioner for International Partnerships. Like we also changed the name of my DG. That's the DG for International Partnerships nowadays, because we really want to get rid of this kind of donor-recipient relationship. So we want to have equal mutual partnerships. And this is the attitude we are working on. And I really see that, for instance, the programming exercise we were able to finalize by the end of last year with many of your countries, where together with your government, with your business sector, with your civil society organizations, and hopefully also with you as a parliamentarians, we were able to define concrete policy priority areas where we want to focus on, where we want to invest in, and where we want to strengthen our partnerships. And now we are working in these policy priorities over the next 7 years. Now we have made also financial commitments for next 4 years, because after 4 years we will have a midterm review, and based on that then we have another financial commitments for the next 3 years. So this is how we work. We have defined those political objectives together with you, and now we need to implement very concrete projects in order to be able to also meet those political objectives and achieve those goals. Then there was a question of this the EU list of non-cooperative tax jurisdictions, the instrument, and I think I was able to follow the discussion in the beginning because I was waiting for my term. So I think it's a good idea to organize a specific session on this, where you can also have experts from DG FISMA, who is the responsible DG within the European Commission. I just want to underline, as a former finance minister myself, that I think we definitely share the same objective of reducing tax avoidance, tax evasion, and also illicit financial flows. Because we need to, I think what we need to really do in all of our countries, including our own countries, we need to really mobilize domestic revenues. Because we need more revenues, we need more financial resources in order to be able to really finance the public sector and the public services. And I think this is the political object we share, but I think it's good to have a specific session where you can really ask all those detailed questions relating to our procedures, how we work, and also if you have some asks or wishes, how we should improve our own internal procedures. Then there was Parliamentarian Arena, who raised the question on migration, and I fully agree with you that we have to respect human dignity. No matter, how people look like, where they come from, we have to respect the human dignity. And in the beginning of the war, I was able to visit the Ukrainian border in Poland, because I wanted to see, that how people are treated when they are entering into EU territory. And I was able to discuss with our representatives in Poland, but also the board management and administration, in order to receive information, how the third country nationals are treated when they are entering to Poland and to the EU territory. And I was delighted to notice that everybody were treated at the same way, and also many of the third country nationals were able to return to their home countries. So I think this is important principle, and we are respecting that. Relating to food security, yes, this is really, I would say, a really urgent matter, especially in the Western Africa, also in the Horn of Africa. I just came back from Sahel and West Africa. And you might remember that actually the EU, together with Japan, pledged last year's UN summits for at least 2.5 billion euros for the food security. So this has been something which has been high on our agenda already before the war in Ukraine. Actually, next Wednesday, I'm organizing together with my colleague Lenarchis a specific event in Paris on food security, because we have to look at what we are able to do in order to support food security, especially in Sahel, but I would say more broadly in Africa. Of course, we have increased already our humanitarian assistance to that region, but I think we have to also look at that how are we able to develop agricultural sector more in more midterm perspective in our partner countries. So I fully agree with you that this is something we have to work with. And the last point relating to Parliamentarian Silva Pereira, yes, I think trade agreements are a huge opportunity for us. But I also agree with you that, of course, we have to include this sustainability aspects to be part of the agreements in terms of environmental sustainability, but also in terms of social sustainability. So this is something we are working on. And in terms of West Africa, as I said, I just visited this week Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Niger. And I think we really agreed that what we have to do in those countries, but I would say more in West Africa, we need to get private investments to those countries so that they are able to, increase their revenues. They are able to create more jobs for their young people. And from that perspective, they are also able to finance better public services for their citizens. So I think this is something we are acknowledge and we have recognized, and we are working with our partners in order to really succeed. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to have a dialogue with you, and looking forward to meeting you, hopefully in person also in the future. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado, Sra. Comissária. Muito obrigado pela sua disponibilidade, não apenas hoje, mas ao longo de todo o processo. Muito obrigado pelo seu entusiasmo. Muito obrigado pelo seu compromisso. Nós sabemos que o seu sucesso será também um sinal do sucesso que nós queremos para a nossa parceria. E queria transmitir-lhe que ao longo dos trabalhos, do dia de ontem, cerimónia de abertura, nas várias reuniões bilaterais, houve sempre um desejo permanente de que o acordo de Cotonou não tenha que ser prorrogado mais uma vez, ou se eventualmente isso tiver que acontecer, isso seja feito ao mesmo tempo que seja definida uma data, um local para assinar o acordo pós-Cotonou. É esse o desejo que lhe queria transmitir. Muito obrigado, Sra. Comissária. Muito obrigado. E vamos passar agora ao ponto 2 da ordem de trabalhos, que saltamos por razões de horário. Aprovação das atas das sessões da 40ª sessão da Assembleia Parlamentar Paritária. A ata da sessão de Bruxelas, junho de 2021, não pôde ser aprovada no local, foi distribuída. Se não forem feitas observações até amanhã, não recebemos nenhuma observação entretanto, e se não forem feitas observações até amanhã às 10 horas, a ata será considerada aprovada. Passaria então ao ponto 3 da ordem de trabalhos. Comunicações da Co-Presidência, designadamente as decisões tomadas na reunião da mesa de 21 de março de 2022. A mesa aprovou o projeto da ordem do dia da Assembleia Parlamentar Paritária, o projeto, voltando ao tema que discutimos inicialmente, é sempre um projeto e sempre passível de ser alterado e corrigido, e aprovou incluir uma troca de pontos de vista sobre a atual situação sobre a invasão russa da Ucrânia e a inclusão de um minuto de silêncio em memória e honra das muitas vítimas de conflitos violentos, minuto de silêncio, aliás, que já respeitámos. A mesa encarregou igualmente o Co-Secretariado de preparar uma declaração conjunta dos co-presidentes sobre a invasão russa da Ucrânia, sublinhando ao mesmo tempo a necessidade de abordar o impacto negativo na segurança e na economia dos países dos ACP e da União Europeia. Por último, este processo está a decorrer. Por último, a mesa declarou admissíveis os 7 projetos de resolução recebidos sobre os 2 temas urgentes para a Assembleia Parlamentar Paritária. Estes são aspectos que dizem respeito à reunião da mesa paritária. Gostava também de relembrar alguns pontos práticos. O prazo para a apresentação de alterações às propostas de resoluções de compromisso, agora teremos que falar no singular, como foi anunciado, à proposta de resolução de compromisso, e outras propostas de resoluções urgentes a submeter à votação, terminou sexta-feira, dia 1 de abril, às 12 horas. O prazo para os pedidos relativos às modalidades de voto, escrutínio separado, escrutínio secreto, votação separada por representantes, é hoje até às 18 horas por escrito. Portanto, é esse o prazo para pedidos relativos à alteração da modalidade tradicional normal de voto. Em relação ao tempo de uso da palavra, o tempo é repartido da forma habitual, metade do tempo para oradores ACP e metade do tempo para oradores do Parlamento Europeu. Já tivemos aqui um exercício prático disso no debate anterior. A lista de oradores foram estabelecidas para cada ponto de ordem do dia, em conformidade com as notificações do Secretariado da Organização dos Estados da África e Pacífico e dos grupos políticos, no caso do Parlamento Europeu. Para qualquer tempo restante não atribuído, os deputados que pretendam intervir devem informar o respectivo secretariado antes do ponto em causa. Também já puderam ver, existe um relógio que indica o tempo de uso da palavra. Procurei fazer neste debate uma gestão criteriosa desse tempo, por vezes faz sentido deixar terminar uma pergunta ou um raciocínio, mas procurando que haja um respeito e um equilíbrio entre todos. Há um relógio que também nos ajuda a poder seguir os tempos que temos. E ainda uma outra informação sobre a sala e a disposição da sala. Nesta sala, os membros da mesa e os correlatores ficam sentados à frente, estando atrás os deputados cujos nomes começam pela letra M. Portanto, nesta sessão, o alfabeto começa por M. Gostaria de recordar que em cada sessão apresentaremos uma letra diferente do alfabeto, para evitar que os mesmos deputados fiquem sempre à frente ou atrás na sala. Portanto, teremos aqui uma sala...
So that we don't always have the same members sitting at the front, so we're very flexible with that. Are there any questions or comments? No? There is. Go ahead.
Merci, Monsieur le Co-Président.
Thank you so much. I am Asarid Mali. When you announced the agenda, you said that there would be a debate without resolution on one of the resolutions. So we're going to have one debate without resolution. One. This is what I said, yes. And this is what I was correcting. I had the notes drafted for me. And there was no agreement between the ACP and the EP political side, so there will be a debate without resolution. Yes, a debate without resolution. Now, a couple of additional things I'd like to say. There will be an extraordinary meeting of the Bureau at 1 in S21. At 1:30, I'm afraid. S21. That meeting will be about the joint declaration as regards the situation in Ukraine. Finally, the ACP countries will have a preparatory meeting. I'll give the floor to my co-president. He'll give you the arrangements. He'll say where and when. Was there a third announcement? Yes, there is. The third announcement is that we're doing all this work, of course, and we will have a 30-minute break now so that we can take a break. But it's also due to the interpreters, meeting room change, things like that. There'll also be coffee provided. Coffee will be at the exit on the right if you would like to have a bit of coffee in your bloodstream. I'm going to give the floor to the co-president so that he can tell you about the ACP meeting, but he will also want to say a few extra words.
Thank you very much, co-president. On this issue of the statement on the Russian invasion, on the submission that was just made, I just wish to indicate that the statement has not yet been issued. As consultations are still ongoing. Therefore, the preparatory meeting will happen at 11 o'clock. And we will have discussions within the OACPS group. And we would ask that at the adjournment of this meeting that you remain here, and then we will seek further guidance as to where we will go from this particular meeting room. But thank you very much for that. Oh yes, that's Bureau members only for this particular consultation. So thank you very much. But as of now, there is no statement yet. Thank you.
So Bureau members of ACP now, Bureau members of ACP and EU at 1:30, and coffee now also, and we return to the room at 11:30. Thank you very much.
Sorry for the 1:30. No.